For 60 years, Hollywood kept a shocking secret about the sound of music. A secret so embarrassing that studio executives banned the cast from ever mentioning it. Julie Andrews herself was sworn to silence. Christopher Plummer took it to his grave, but in 2024, during the film's 60th anniversary preparations, newly discovered production documents revealed what really happened during those chaotic nights in Austria. The truth about the film's most romantic scene is stranger than any fiction Hollywood could create. And the real reason why 5 cast members are no longer with us today? That story has never been told until now. But first, if you're loving these untold Hollywood stories, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to discover will change how you see this beloved classic forever. The Hills weren't just alive with music, they were alive with danger. During that famous opening scene, where Julie Andrews spins with her arms outstretched against those stunning Austrian mountains, something terrifying was happening that audiences never saw. A massive helicopter hovered just 20 feet above her head. The cameraman was literally hanging out of the side, risking his life for that perfect shot. But here's what Fox Studios tried to hide. Every time that helicopter circled around, its powerful downdraft slammed Julie Andrews face first into the ground. Not once, not twice, but 7 times. She was knocked down so violently that crew members thought she'd broken bones. Her dress was torn. Dirt and grass stained her face. The makeup team had to completely redo her look between each take. Years later, Julie would joke that she was almost launched straight into Germany. But at the time, it wasn't funny at all. The insurance company threatened to shut down production after viewing the footage. What happened next would cost the studio thousands in bribes to keep quiet. Picture this: 1964, Salzburg, Austria. 250 cast and crew members sitting in the rain, day after day after day. The wettest spring Europe had seen in 50 years. Hotel bills mounting, equipment rusting, tempers flaring. This wasn't how The Sound of Music was supposed to happen. In fact, the film almost never happened at all. 20th Century Fox was bleeding money. Their previous epic, Cleopatra, had nearly destroyed the entire studio, going $15 million over budget and ending careers. When executives announced they were spending $8 million on a musical about nuns and children, industry insiders called it career annihilation. One studio executive literally said, "This movie might be the end of us." He had no idea how right and how wrong he would be. The journey to those Austrian hills started in the most unexpected place, the jungles of Papua New Guinea. That's where the real Maria von Trapp was hiding when Hollywood came calling. Not hiding from fame. She didn't even know anyone was looking for her. She was doing missionary work in remote villages, teaching music to children who'd never seen a piano. Every few months, when she'd arrive at a new mission post, there would be a pile of letters waiting. Letters from some American couple begging her to let them turn her life into a Broadway show. Maria's response? She tore them up, every single one. Didn't even read them. But Richard Halliday wasn't giving up. When Maria's ship finally docked in San Francisco after 2 years in the jungle, he was standing right there on the pier. In his hand, 2 tickets to see his wife, Mary Martin, perform on Broadway. Maria went, probably just to be polite. What she saw that night changed everything. But there was one massive problem. Maria had already sold her life rights for $9,000 to a German film company years earlier. That's right, the woman whose story would generate billions in revenue had signed everything away for what would be about $104,000 today. No royalties, no bonuses, no back-end deals, nothing. But she did something remarkable. She told Halliday, "You're welcome to give it your best shot." That one sentence would create Broadway history. When Rodgers and Hammerstein got involved, they had one demand that shocked everyone. The producers wanted to use traditional Austrian folk songs, the actual music the Von Trapp family performed. Maybe add 1 or 2 Broadway numbers to connect things. Rodgers and Hammerstein's response? Absolutely not. Either they wrote every song or they walked away. That ultimatum created my favorite things: Do Re Mi, Edelweiss, and Climb Every Mountain, songs the world still sings 60 years later. Opening night on Broadway, November 16, 1959. The curtain rises at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater. Mary Martin as Maria. The production cost $400,000 to stage, but something extraordinary happened. Before most people had even seen the show, it had $232 million in advance ticket sales. $232 million in 1959 money. The show ran for 1,443 performances. Mary Martin missed exactly one show in 4 years. She walked away with over $8 million from her profit share. Remember that number? It becomes important later. By 1960, studios were fighting over movie rights like Hungry Wolves. Fox won, paying $1,250,000. But they added one little clause that made everyone laugh. If the film made more than $12.5 million, Rodgers and Hammerstein's estate would get 10% of everything. The co-writer literally laughed out loud. $12 million for a musical? Never happening. He could not have been more wrong. Now comes the casting disaster that created a Hollywood legend. Julie Andrews had just spent years playing Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady on Broadway. She owned that role, created it, defined it. So naturally, when they made the movie, they cast Audrey Hepburn. The studio's reason? Andrews wasn't camera ready. Translation, not pretty enough for Hollywood. Andrews was devastated, crushed. The kind of rejection that ends careers. But director Robert Wise was looking for his Maria, and someone at Disney had something to show him. Early footage from a little film called Mary Poppins. It wasn't even finished yet. Wise watched for exactly 4 minutes before turning to his writer. Sign her before anyone else sees this. Julie Andrews got $225,000. Flat fee, no royalties, no profit participation, nothing. That same deal that gave Mary Martin $8 million on Broadway, Andrews got none of it. Neither did Christopher Plummer. Speaking of Plummer, here's a secret that stayed buried for decades. He hated this movie, despised it, called it the sound of mucus to anyone who'd listen. He turned down the role 3 times. When they finally convinced him, he had demands. Rewrite the character, give him depth, give him his own song. Oh, and one more thing. He did half the movie drunk. That's not an exaggeration. During the emotional scene where the family sings farewell to Austria, where Captain Von Trapp's eyes fill with tears, Plummer was, in his own words, 3 sheets to the wind. The scene that makes audiences cry 60 years later, performed by a man who could barely stand up. But here's the part that really destroyed him. They dubbed his singing voice. When Plummer sang Edelweiss, that wasn't Plummer. It was Bill Lee, the same voice you hear in Disney movies. Plummer was furious. He called it emasculating, said it destroyed his ability to play the role. The fact that no one noticed for decades probably made it worse. Let's talk about the children, because what happened during casting would launch one of the biggest franchises in entertainment history, and no one saw it coming. For Friedrich, the second oldest Von Trapp child, a young actor auditioned who didn't get the part. His name? Kurt Russell. The role went to Nicholas Hammond instead. But here's what nobody knew at the time. Hammond would become the very first live-action Spider-Man on television in 1977. That's right. Before Tobey Maguire, before Tom Holland, there was a Von Trapp child in red and blue tights. But the real tragedy was Liesel. Charmian Carr was 21 years old playing 16. She did her own stunts during 16 going on 17, including jumping from bench to bench in that gazebo. On the very last jump, she fell through the glass. The gash required urgent medical attention, but they couldn't stop filming, so they shot her remaining scenes with her heavily bandaged and only from specific angles. You can actually see it in the film if you know where to look. During the party scene, she's always positioned to hide her injured leg. The dance moves were altered. Close-ups were used to avoid showing her limp. Years later, Carr would say that injury never fully healed properly. But nothing compared to what happened to little Gretel. 5-year-old Kim Carath, The youngest Von Trapp nearly died on set during the boat scene where the children fall into the lake. Nobody told Julie Andrews until minutes before filming that Kim couldn't swim. The plan was for Andrews to fall toward the child and grab her immediately. But when the boat tipped, Andrews fell backward. Kim went under twice. Another actor dove in to save her. She vomited lake water and developed a terror of swimming that lasted decades. Andrews later called it the most frightening moment of her entire career. Now, about that gazebo scene, the one Fox desperately tried to hide. Here's what really happened. The romantic moment between Maria and Captain Von Trapp, where they finally confess their love under the moonlight? Total disaster. The massive carbon arc lights they used to simulate moonlight made a sound, a very specific sound. They sounded exactly like someone passing gas, loudly, wetly, repeatedly. Every time Plummer leaned in to kiss Andrews, the entire crew lost it. Andrews couldn't stop giggling. Plummer tried to stay in character, but failed. They attempted the scene 20 times. 20 takes ruined by fart sounds. Finally, director Robert Wise gave up. He shot the whole thing in silhouette instead, placing them against the glowing gazebo windows so you couldn't see them laughing. That dreamy, romantic lighting everyone loves? That was damage control for fart sounds. Fox threatened anyone who talked about it with lawsuits. The truth only came out when Julie finally told the story on live television decades later. But let's discuss what this film was really up against. The Sound of Music had to compete with Gone with the Wind, a film that had ruled the box office for 27 years. No movie had come close. Industry experts predicted Fox would lose everything. What happened next shocked Hollywood to its core. In just 18 months, The Sound of Music didn't just match Gone with the Wind, it destroyed it. $286 million at the global box office. In 1965 money, that's 283 million tickets sold. 1 out of every 12 people alive on Earth saw this movie. No streaming, no internet, no viral marketing, just word of mouth and families returning 5, 6, 10 times. It swept the Oscars. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Sound, Best Editing, Best Score. But here's the shocking part about the money. Remember how Julie Andrews got that flat fee of $225,000? The film she was paid that amount for has now earned, adjusted for inflation, over $1.3 billion. She never saw a penny beyond her original check. The same happened to Plummer, while the studio executives who thought the film would fail became millionaires. The two stars who made it iconic got nothing. Mary Martin, who played Maria on Broadway, made 35 times what Julie Andrews made for the same role, in the same story. But the real tragedy is what happened to the cast afterward. In 2016, Charmian Carr, who played Liesl, died from complications of dementia at 73. She'd spent her final years forgetting the very role that made her famous. In 2017, on Christmas Eve, Heather Minnies-Ulrich, who played Louisa, passed away from brain cancer. She was diagnosed in November and gone 4 weeks later. At 68 years old, Christopher Plummer held on to his resentment for decades. He spent 40 years mocking the film, calling it saccharine garbage. But in his final years, something changed. He admitted the film had charmed him. He recognized its impact on generations of families. When he died in 2021 at 91, he'd finally made peace with Captain Von Trapp, but he never made peace with what Fox did during production. You see, there's one scene nobody talks about because it was cut entirely. Plummer and Andrews filmed an extended sequence where their characters think about each other while separated. It was considered too romantic, too adult. Test audiences in Oklahoma supposedly complained, but newly discovered documents from 2024 suggest something different. The scene was cut because it showed Plummer's character drinking heavily. The studio feared it would remind audiences that the actor himself had been intoxicated during filming. As of December 2024, only 7 cast members from The Sound of Music remain alive. Julie Andrews, now 90, lives quietly in New York. She can no longer sing, A botched throat surgery in 1997 destroyed her 4-octave range forever. She sued the surgeon and won an undisclosed settlement but lost the voice that defined a generation. The last time the surviving Von Trapp children saw her was in 2022 when she received the AFI Life Achievement Award. They surprised her by singing "Do, Re, Mi." Witnesses say there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Here's something extraordinary. Those child actors, now in their 60s and 70s, still call each other family. They text regularly. They attend each other's weddings, birthdays, and sadly, funerals. Nicholas Hammond, who played Friedrich, says they share something nobody else can understand. They were part of a moment that changed cinema forever. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came during the 60th anniversary in 2025. Disney, which now owns Fox, discovered original contracts in their vault. These documents revealed that the Von Trapp children were paid less than the dog who played their pet. The studio justified it by saying the dog required special training and insurance. The children? They were considered easily replaceable. The film's restoration for its 60th anniversary took 9 months and used technology that didn't exist even 5 years ago. Every frame was digitally enhanced. The team discovered something remarkable. In several scenes, you can see crew members reflected in windows. A cameraman appears in Maria's eyes during My Favorite Things. A lighting technician is visible in the captain's medals. These mistakes had been there for 60 years, seen by billions, noticed by none. When they screened the restored version in September 2025, it earned $1.6 million in a single weekend. For a 60-year-old film, that's the power of The Sound of Music. It transcends time, technology, and even its own troubled history. The truth is, The Sound of Music succeeded not despite its chaos, but because of it. Every struggle, every accident, every drunken performance, and every knockdown actress contributed to something magical. It's a film born from disaster that became the definition of perfection. A movie its own star called The Sound of Mucus that taught the world to sing. The Von Trapp family escaped the Nazis in the movie. In reality, they simply took a train to Italy. No midnight mountain climbing required. But the cast of The Sound of Music really did escape something: the cynicism of Hollywood. They created pure joy from pure chaos. And 60 years later, the hills are still alive. Even if Julie Andrews can no longer sing about it, even if half the cast is gone, even if the truth is a messier than the fiction, because that's what great movies do. They become bigger than their own stories, bigger than their struggles, bigger than the secrets studios try to bury. The Sound of Music isn't just a film anymore. It's proof that sometimes, just sometimes, Hollywood magic is real, even when it sounds like a fart. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe and check out the next video on your screen for more untold Hollywood secrets.